Hey there. Welcome to Schaub Shift, where we talk about transformations that matter. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation I had with Penelope Cottrell and DeMay. They're the founders of the Rewrite Workshops. You know how I always say on the show that you're both the author and the main character of the story you're writing for yourself? Well, the Rewrite Workshops helps people change the story. Are you wishing your life was different right now? Do you keep going back and telling yourself, and probably other people too, your old story? You know the one I'm talking about. Well, they've started something that can help you figure out how to rewrite that story, how to change the narrative so that you can begin to see yourself in a very different light. By shifting your perceptions of yourself, you can literally change your life. Before we start, please remember that this and all podcasts are not a substitute for professional advice about your personal situation, and that the opinions expressed here are those of me and my guests only. Okay, let's get started.
Turn it up, let it play, let your spirit drift. This is the Schaub shift.
All right, welcome Penny and Rhea.
Thanks for having us, Mary.
I'm so glad you're here. Did you guys bring a warm beverage or anything? I was going to have some tea. I'm trying to make this like a cozy little chat. I don't know if you've ever seen the Hot Ones show where they eat hot wings during an interview. I was thinking make it like a beverage thing, or drinks or coffee. I don't know.
No, for me, it's always coffee.
Water. I thought we could all slurp and make it like an ASMR kind of experience.
So my new thing, Mary, is lavender. Like, I'm on the lavender wave right now. So everything is just lavender matcha tea, lavender latte, everything. Like,
really?
It's really bad. It's really gotten bad.
So I'm trying to grow some, and maybe I'll dry it and I can send it to you. I think I don't have a sense of smell. I think with those latte, like, can you taste lavender, or is it something you can?
A little bit.
Do you think you need smell to taste it? It's so subtle, right? In a latte, it's kind of a subtle.
It tastes like, you know the internet, like on YouTube, where they talk soft life.
Yeah,
like, it tastes like soft life. It tastes like self-care. It's good.
Oh, I love that. All right. Well, I feel inspired to work on a lavender martini or something. I'll take that away as
Yes. Like it.
I am so excited to be talking with you both today, and what you've done is so cool, and the concept is so perfect, and it almost feels like we've been in cahoots because it's so aligned to, I think, this show and everything I'm trying to do over here. You guys are the founders of the Rewrite Workshops, and I think your tagline is a perfect explanation of what you're offering here. Rewrite your story, reclaim your power. And to go into it a little bit, your workshops offer people an opportunity to better understand and express themselves through writing, but also, and here I think is really the compelling part for me, you're helping people explore where maybe old and outdated stories are holding them back. And so I say pretty frequently on this show that each of us is both the writer and the protagonist of the story we're writing for ourselves. And sometimes I spew this stuff here, and then I'm like, I kind of check myself, and I'm like, I'm sure people are at home being like, all right, yeah, that's cute, nice concept, but like, what do I do with that? How can I take this cute little concept and like practically change my situation? And I feel like what you're doing is a great tool to help people do exactly that. So I'd love if you could share a little bit about the origin story of how you came to create this.
Sure. I'm with you, Mary. I'm the same way. People talk about, okay, so these are the concepts I kept hearing for years, and I just couldn't figure out what that meant. Like shadow work, right? When people kept saying shadow work, I'm like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Do the work. Okay, like, I'm in therapy. What else? Do you know what I mean? One of the things that happened was I would get these flashes, like workshop, rewrite story, and it would come in and it would go. And January 6th of last year, I'll never forget it. January 6th of 2024, I was in a content creator, like a networking group, and I was just meeting people, and we ended up doing this workshop by accident. We were all talking about goals for the year, and next thing you know, we're talking about what's holding us back. And it wasn't things that were recent. Like, it's like when I was homecoming queen, when this happened when I was 5, my dad. The thing was for me to see what this would look like. If that makes sense. I don't know if everyone, believes in a higher power, but for me, it was like someone wanted me to see what does this look like? How freeing this could be for folks. And we all join on social media with each other. So I was able to see over the course of a few months how this was panning out and how everyone was trying to stretching themselves and stretching their boundaries. That was number one, was cool to see in everyone else. And then probably within 3 months, I had had this 16-year career in labor and employment law, and I was a labor negotiator. And all of a sudden I was like, this is not me. Like the remnants of what had happened from the workshop, it planted a seed. I was like, this is not me. This is not authentically me. It was great for a season. I don't regret it. But this is not truly who I am and who I'm meant to be. I'm a creative. I'm a creative writer. I'm not a legal writer. I'm a creative writer. I'm going for it. And it was shortly thereafter, my husband got diagnosed with a health issue with a benign brain tumor. And that was it. That was like, life is too short. I'm going for it. But it was that workshop that planted the seed. And I thought to myself, if that could happen for me and give me the courage, and I can watch this play out in so many other people's lives, it would be remiss of me not to share that with other people. Now I know what shadow work looks like. Now I know what goal setting and a new story can look like. I should be sharing that with other people.
My God, that is so exciting. I have chills. And what's interesting, I spoke with you guys a little bit before we decided to do this, and I knew about your workshop, the two of you took together.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part, Rhea. And so now that's even more talking about like there are no coincidences, right?
No.
Now that's even more clear to me that that's absolutely true. And as you're talking, and even before, but especially now, I'm thinking it's so fascinating how we all make these micro decisions in our everyday lives, and whether they're conscious or not,
Yes.
these decisions link to the story that we tell ourselves. So it's really interesting. The genesis of how this business idea came into being is like a great example of what you're actually trying to do. Right? It's kind of like this meta example that the way we think about ourselves impacts our day-to-day decisions, and then our day-to-day decisions like reinforce that. And so that if either of you were telling yourself a different story, like, oh, this is boring, it's not interested, like you can't really change this stuff, it's the past stuff should live in the past, or you guys are in your workshop and you're like, oh, I'm too vulnerable, I don't know her that well. And if at any point in the time during any of those things, this doesn't happen, right? I mean, that's so fascinating that the genesis of this business idea is born in the case study of why it works.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow. And I love the backstories too. And so, you mentioned that you studied journalism and mass communication, and then you went on to have a successful career as a lawyer working in education. And Penny, you're a writer and an educator, and you've been heavily involved in literacy advocacy. You play a leadership role in the North Carolina Writers Network. And your backstories had prepared you with this combined experience to be well placed. So yes, it was like, hey, we took the chance, we had the conversation, we did this. But then if you look at both of your backgrounds, it's perfectly, like you couldn't reverse engineer like how to get to this point, right? Doesn't it seem very elegant?
Lined up, right?
It lined up. So I'm curious, jumping forward to the workshop that the both of you attended, I'm curious what was going on for both of you in that workshop, because I think here's the thing. People take workshops all the time and they can meet cool and interesting people, but most of us don't walk out deciding to start a company together. So could you share a little bit about like what that energy was like and what was going on?
Well, Mary, I think it's so serendipitous that all three of us sort of met through writing, through creating.
Yes, it's true.
And when I met Rhea, I think for both of us, we were, we're writers. We've gone and just sort of taken this leap of faith into this career path that we feel very passionate about. We happen to be 2 of 10 people who were chosen for this workshop through the North Carolina Writers Network last summer. And of all the people there, the 2 protagonists in our novels that we were workshopping happened to be very similar. And then they were both very powerful female characters. And we got to talking over the weekend. You're spending all this time together with this group of people and really getting to know everybody. And we had a really cohesive group, all 10 of us. And we were very fortunate to have a fantastic instructor for us. But Rhea and I just clicked for some reason. And it also helped that we live 15 minutes from each other. We don't live in disparate parts of the state either. But we got together after that and thought, let's be each other's accountability partners and really see these novels through to the end. And in learning about how we write and what we write about, we learned that we both use writing as a tool for healing. We both have histories of trauma. And it was just one of those things where it was the right time and right place. And I feel like I've known Rhea for a lot longer than I've known her, which has been less than a year, but we just clicked it off and it just worked. Everything fell into place.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's interesting you say you know each other longer than you would assume. And I think so many of us can often be in chapters where most of the relationships are somewhat superficial. And sometimes that's appropriate. Certainly I've spoken in the past about maybe it's not always great to bring your authentic self to some professional environments but when you're in certain environments and then you're like, no, this is where I can, you're like, oh, wow, this is a different type of relationship than all those other things. And then things happen in very dynamic ways. It's not about, hey, I'm trying to get Rhea to buy something, or I'm trying to network, or I'm trying to, when you just enter it from a place of curiosity and openness and acceptance, and then with combined values of, hey, we believe in this process of holding ourselves accountable to be creators, to heal ourselves, and then to reach that point and go, maybe we can do something more to help other people. I'm also a trauma survivor and a writer, as we've met through writing workshops, Penny, and even just keeping a journal has been an amazing therapeutic tool for me. I think I've spoken in other kind of writing groups about how sometimes that process is so unconscious that something's coming through you. And so it's not the craft of the writing per se, but there's this deeper work at play, which I'd love to dig into a little bit. Is it fair to say your workshops blend psychology, mindfulness, and storytelling techniques? I love that. This is the space I play in all the time. And I'd love to know more about, I guess, those types of things in your past experience, which helped you define your specific methodology for this workshop.
So I came into writing during the pandemic, and I think that was such an inflection point for everybody worldwide. And it also happened to coincide with me turning 40. And I think that was also an inflection point for me. Mm-hmm. I think so many people right now, even as a collective community, we're all at an inflection point. We are on the brink of some big shift. So I think you are spot on with this podcast. I think Rhea and I, you can hear the rumblings underground coming through. And I think this is an instance of that where we just felt it in our hearts that a big change is coming. I don't know what it is exactly, but not only personally, but I think in terms of a collective society. And Mary, I know you have a background in psychology, and I have a background in politics because I've been heavily interested in social justice and human rights. And I think writing is such a beautiful and authentic way to tap into that.
Oh, I toyed with jumping into this topic, but I know I can with you, both of you guys. And I'm going to ask people to bear with me because I'm going to go on a little thing because I love talking with people like you because you're so intelligent and so emotionally aware. As I was just saying, when you can connect to people on this level, it's like a different game, right? It's like a different dynamic. Right. But I am a big fan of Joseph Campbell. And I forget how old I was when I came across that PBS. Yes. There was that Bill Moyers thing on PBS.
Yes.
I think I was like 12 or something. And I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I was like 12. And I remember watching it and I had no business, like how you look back in your life and you're like, wow, I was an old soul. I was like looking at the thing. I didn't know what the hell it was, but there was something that made me watch these two old men on PBS talking about some stuff. There's no reason why a 12, 13-year-old girl would want to do it. But there was another part of me that knew that there was, hey, pay attention. Oh, God, this stuff is so cool. But so myths and archetypes, and I know you guys know this, but I'm just going to talk about it a little bit for those who don't. They're so deeply imprinted on human consciousness because they operate as universal patterns that transcend culture, geography, time. And it helps us make sense of our experiences. And so what I think Joseph Campbell was so brilliant at teaching is like the enduring power of the hero's journey. Because it's perfect. It's so perfect in an example of how patterns become encoded in storytelling across cultures. So whether it's like ancient epics to Star Wars, because like the
right.
hero's journey, it exemplifies the psychological process of growth and challenge and transformation that's inherent to being a human. And so I love that you're using writing as a tool here. And we should mention also is like folks don't have to worry about writing skills, right? They don't have to love writing or
Right.
be writers because
Right.
they hear us talking, we're like, oh, we're writers. And it's like,
Right.
no, that doesn't matter.
No.
Because as humans, we're natural storytellers. It's
Yes.
part of us. It's part of us as human beings. And then the concept of rewriting our narratives, it's like sitting right at the intersection of personal development and creative practice. And so
Right.
just, maybe tactically, I'd love to hear how those two elements are balanced in your workshops.
So Mary, I love that you mentioned Joseph Campbell. So I would love to tell
If
you,
you know,
I
you
watched
know,
that.
right? We got all
Yes.
excited.
I have watched that in the last 6 weeks.
Wow.
That old interview. Yeah, because PBS was doing another fundraiser. I really was an old soul. But I like that methodology because Penny and I are both working on novels. I'm in a writing intensive, 1 year writing intensive right now. So I am using that prototype. And you know what I've done? I've tried to mark my own life by that. I've used that and like even the refusal of the call. And I think that's what we're trying to do with these workshops. We're trying to, this wasn't pre-said between us, like that you hit the nail right on the head. We're trying to take everyone on their own hero's journey. So through all the steps. So that's what I feel like I've been on. I'm going to be very frank. I lived my life in a lot of ways for other people. A lot of my decisions to major in what I majored in, go to law school, be in a legal career, I've enjoyed what I did for a living immensely, but it was never it never made my heart sing in the way I knew something was missing. Nothing I could do could take that away from me. I knew something was missing. I had amazing coworkers and I just knew something was still missing. And that's what I've experienced myself, the beauty and the power of rewriting my story and being on my own hero's journey. And this is what I'm trying to like bring the fire back, right? That's what's the whole part of the hero journey, bring back the reward. That's what I'm trying to do. I think that's what Penny's trying to do, to bring back the fire to the community so that they too can have the experience. Because here's the thing, when my husband got diagnosed with his brain tumor, you stop. Like you can sit, I was 40 something years, 41 years old. You stop. You just stop and you start to reflect and say, life is so short. I don't know that I get another crack at it, right? I don't know if reincarnation is real. I know I have this life and I want to leave it all out on the table. I don't want to live anymore for my parents. And I don't want to live anymore for this person, that person. I don't want to live through this wound anymore. I don't want that wound to define me anymore. I want to be my own person. I want to know who Rhea is without the trauma. I want to know who Rhea is without the input of other people or the general public. I want to know what Rhea is without the pressure to be perfect and just be herself.
Again, the chills. It's exactly what I'm trying to do with this podcast. And the podcast is something I'm doing for me because I'm going through that exact same process as well. And by the way, Rhea, you're so brilliant because you've already answered the next question that I had written for you, which was like, hey, for me personally, I, been in a corporate career for 30 years, very successful, just as there's like an egoic connection to being this title or this job. And, it's a quick way of signaling who you are in a cocktail party. Like they'll look at your shoes and your handbag and then you say where you work, your title, and that's very safe. And it is part of building a successful career. But I think you can reach a certain age and hopefully we're changing the world to where everyone will be doing this. It's not a midlife crisis. You don't have to wait till you're 70 to realize life is short. I still work with companies, but it's a different type of relationship. And I have now coaching people I work with. And this podcast just feels like more of an alignment of who I am, less trade-offs. And then also, can I be doing something that's helpful? Can I be doing putting something in the world that's positive? Because if we look around, it feels like, things are tough. Things are tough.
Right.
I want to read a quote you guys posted on your blog on Substack, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes for people to check it out. I highly recommend, because you guys write beautifully and there's a lot of wisdom, and you post free exercises that people can try on their own. So here's a quote you guys put up recently. Personal growth doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up in a sentence we didn't expect to write, a memory we thought we'd buried, a truth we've been circling around. Writing gives us a mirror and a doorway. We see ourselves more clearly, and we step into a version of ourselves that is just a little bit more whole. Wow. I mean, it's so beautiful how you've captured this process of self-transformation. And as I think about what you're doing with the workshops, and what's so important, I don't think we talk about enough, is that you can't go through this completely alone, right? Like, I think healing from trauma is relational. Transforming is relational. I think we really need each other. And so I then start to going back to Joseph Campbell and our archetypes. And maybe just for a second, indulge me for folks who don't know about archetypes. They're these universal recurring patterns or symbols. And so if I say hero or villain, everybody knows exactly what I mean. Everyone has their own version of it. And it transcends time and cultures. There's also this archetype for helper, mentor, healer, or wise one, right? You got your Gandalfs and your Obi-Wan Kenobis, your Yoda, your Dumbledores, and they typically appear when the protagonist is ready to grow, but needs guidance to navigate unfamiliar territory. And again, I just think we need each other more. And I think where we are right now as a society is we're so isolated. We've become so disconnected from ourselves. And then we wonder why we feel disconnected from each other and we're so lonely. And so, as I think about you guys playing this role, we start with Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars canon. We first meet him. He's a powerful, old, wise Jedi, but then we learn his backstory when he was young and learning. As he evolved, he then became a wise one who could then, like in an apprenticeship model, then help the next person.
Agreed. Yeah.
Older, indigenous societies and older cultures, there was this understanding of people helping support each other. So, but back to us, as you can tell, I love this shit. I can talk on and on about it forever. But I think that's sort of what you're playing now. You're on your journey, and now you're reaching out and helping others, and you're offering both individual and group workshops, and these can be taken either virtually or in person. And so, as I'm thinking about this, do you expect that this could possibly rise to a form of fellowship and community building as well, just as what you experienced, Rhea, in the workshops that you've attended, that this is a very helpful tool for an individual, but also, maybe there's something broader happening here, that you're creating space for a community?
Well, Mary, I think like you've said so many times in your podcast, it's not about jumping ship and making this colossal change all in one fell swoop. And our hope with the Rewrite workshops is to have different types of workshops to explore different parts of your life and different, even different moods that you might have in that particular workshop that we take, or something that has happened in your life recently that you want to address. And in the aggregate, all these little small changes will add up to a bigger, broader change. Taking those small steps, those small manageable steps, really helps just focus that. And, if you write, you're a writer. I will always say that. And I will take that to my grave, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm not a writer. I don't know anything about the craft. It doesn't matter. As long as you know what your story is and you have an imagination and you're able to utilize it, you really do have more power than you think you do. And I think for all three of us trauma survivors, one of the first things we learned as small children is that we don't have a voice. And our hope now is that writing will be that voice for you. And even just taking small steps, building it together can make a big change in your life.
I thought of a quote years ago. It was someone bought me a book of quotes about writing and writers. And I think there was something to the effect of, I write so I can learn how I feel, or something to that effect. Or and there's so many times that I will write something and then I'll come back to it, and it's like I'm reading something else that someone else wrote. And even if I go back, and sometimes I'll reread journals at different periods in my life, and I'll pick up on something that's completely, I just didn't realize that now makes a lot of sense. Or I'll say, wow, this thing has changed so much. Or, hey, here's this enduring quality of myself that hasn't changed. It's so instructional. And I also think it's a way of helping us reconnect with our inner lives. I meditate. I'm a big fan of Eastern philosophies. We've spoken, Penny, a little bit about that. There's lots of different ways to practice. And whether it's sitting on a mat or going to a retreat or something, writing is such an accessible, easy way to just try to get back inside of ourselves because we are so externally focused right now. And really, sometimes some of us, and I catch myself from time to time, I will just forget my inner world. I will forget the felt sense of being in my body or what I'm feeling. And sometimes someone will be like, "Hey, how are you feeling about that?" And I'll be like, "Huh? Like what?" Like I have to actually reground myself because I've lost that connection. It's so easy. And maybe that's hustle culture. Maybe that's a digital culture, but using writing as a way of going back to that kind of inner safe sanctuary that is each of us. And to your point, Ria, like finding who you really are, because if you stay disconnected long enough, you will find yourself on a completely different path that's not aligned to who you really are if you lose that connection.
Going inside is uncomfortable, and doing that on your own sometimes is too much. So having a safe space to do that and having people that you trust and can help guide you through that can be really reassuring. And that's what we hope to do at the Rewrite workshops.
Yeah. And so, Mary, I think, and to add to what Penny's saying, I just identified as a writer literally less than a year ago. When I applied to the workshop Penny referenced earlier, that was a lark. That was crazy. I knew I was not getting in. I just knew. I was just like, I'm going to do it. And what writing allows for me, I have found old journals. It was like I was leaving myself breadcrumbs. I found them at the right moment when I needed the right thing. Like I got stuck writing a few weeks back. I'm in this writing intensive producing this novel. And I found a journal. I don't know when I wrote it. It must have at least 15 years ago. Found a journal, cleaned out the attic, and it got me out of the rut. It was just what I needed. It was like I left myself a breadcrumb. And that's what we're hoping to do with writing. We don't have space. Penny and I are trying to offer space. So I found writing prompts before. I've seen journals and books that are supposed to walk you through these things before, and they're very helpful. We are bombarded by so much messaging. I mean, we're on a podcast, so it's not lost to me. But at least this is the type of podcast that leads to growth and development. A lot of us are bombarded by nonsense, especially at this time, especially so much chaos in the world. And if we can hold space for you, so you're not buying a book with writing prompts and saying, I'll get to it. We have organized a space for you to be able to address those issues. And I think one of the leading core values Penny and I have is to be what we needed. Like you talked about Gandalf, you talked about Dumbledore, like to be what we needed when Penny and I were in COVID and going through our things. Like who did we need? Who did we need when we were making life decisions? And so our particular workshops, as Penny referenced, we have different things for different facets. So we have a workshop that addresses the inner critic, right? And changing that inner critic and that narrative and making it something that's actually productive. It's like my inner critic became my coach, something of that nature. Or, how to heal from a breakup and dealing with the feelings of that. Or if you're going through life change and life transitions.
I think there's something super profound with create what I needed.
Yes.
If I sort of triangulate all these data points of people who had some successful venture. Often, not always. Sometimes they're smart and they're technologically savvy. It was a good product and sometimes makes money and all that. I get it. But it's so interesting how many times you will find that behind that success is because it's something I had needed. Like the Smartless guys. I mean, take something super, not relatable, but the three celebrity guys who were jumping out of their skin during COVID, they were best friends. They couldn't see each other, wanted to keep each other company, wanted to make each other laugh, and just created a dumb podcast where they did the same things they would do in person. And it's this multi-million-dollar thing. They created what they needed. And somehow it resonated. A couple weeks ago, there was a podcast I had with Rob Kenny, who's the internet dad. I don't know if you guys saw that. Yeah. But again, he was 14 and he was, by all means, it's abandoned by his parents and raised by a sibling. And as a 14-year-old boy going through puberty, there's lots of questions and mentorship and things that you're going to miss. And so he created a YouTube channel and things like how to tie a tie and change a flat tire. And because
Right.
I think there's a sense of healing that part of ourselves that is still a little bit hurt and scared. You're coming to your own rescue as a hero, and you're solving that for your inner part that is still struggling. And lo and behold, there's lots of other people who are currently 14 years old out there that you're now helping them. And there's an alchemy to it. And I'm laughing as I say alchemy. Penny and I are friends with a woman. She's an ex-chemistry professor, and she gets really upset when I use alchemy, but I don't know. I love it. It's just this, how do you take something that's negative and painful and hurtful and blocking you? And how do you transform it into something that is its opposite? Because everything has its opposite. Every light has its dark, right? Everything.
Right.
And those things that are hurting us, it's not just hide it. It's just not get over it or heal it. It's like actually use that for something else. In keeping with this thread, I'm coming to my rescue. I'm the change that I needed. I'm going to create a podcast where someone talks about being inspired by change and, not giving up and looking at it from a philosophical, psychological, business point, like whatever. Like I'm going to try to do that to heal me, but then maybe someone else needs that too. And so I'm healing myself and I'm healing the world. I'm not saying I'm healing the world, but you know what I mean?
No,
So
but
I'm the change that I'm waiting for. And maybe we're all waiting for that. I'm leading you guys. I'm leading the witness a little bit here. I'm curious to see how you might see the connection between Rewrite's work and broader societal impact. Because I personally believe, and maybe I'm just holding on to it because I need to believe it, that when we each follow that process and we do that work to heal and give ourselves what we need, then we do put something out there positive into the world. And do you believe that maybe personal narrative work could lead to a collective change?
Yes, Mary, absolutely. I do. I think, it's leading by example. If you do something that's authentic to you, somebody else is going to see that and pick up on it and say, I want to do that. I can do that too. And, there's in writing, there's a formula for writing a story, right? It's not a secret. And I think if we can think of ourselves as our own protagonists and take ourselves through that hero's journey, writing just gives you a tool where you can really sit down. And there's something about putting your thoughts on paper in your own handwriting and giving yourself that distance from it that makes it a little bit more objective. And you can see it more clearly and think, okay, I do have more power in how things go. I mean, there are always going to be external factors. There's financial circumstances, there's health issues, things like that. But so much of it, you do have more control than you think. And I spoke earlier about, as trauma survivors, the voice being so important. And that's where writing really comes into play, because that is our voice. And so, Mary, I know that you studied psychology, which I think is endlessly fascinating. And there is a very human need to do something that's purposeful. And there are so many of us that are doing things for other people or for financial gain or for status, and we're not doing it for our own purpose. And I think, like I said earlier in the show, that we are at an inflection point where we're starting to come to this reckoning of recognizing that there is more to life than being in the hustle mentality and just making a name for yourself. And if we can take time to sit and write and really reflect on what our values are, there's that ripple effect, like dropping a pebble into a pond. Somebody else is going to pick up on that, and then somebody else is going to pick up on that, and it will just spread into the broader swath of society.
And I think also I don't think you need just one tool. I think you can be in therapy and still attend these workshops or go to a yoga retreat and still
We actually prefer it.
Bring everything, have a whole toolbox with lots of different things. Sometimes one thing will get through in one way and another thing will hit you in a different way. And then each thing opens you a little bit and a little bit. And so don't feel like, well, I'm already in therapy, I don't need anything else. Like, I mean, your therapists are great. And
yes,
but so is reading and writing, and so is maybe an active practice. And as you start to make all these little changes and bring all these different things into your life, it just really compounds on each other. And I do want to focus on the relational piece of this, and something you were saying, Penny, about holding space. Because right now there's so many people being like, well, I could do this on ChatGPT and I can do this.
Right,
There's these free
right,
templates.
exactly.
And listen, I love all that technology. It's fascinating. Every day there's some new thing that blows my mind. But I think we're forgetting the power of human intimacy. And it cannot be replicated. I know that there's a girl who's fallen in love with Claude, and there's like lots of stories where people are getting something out of it. But there's something that when you sit with people, and even as I'm sitting with you and your guys aren't in the same room, like I can feel when you say certain things, I can feel it in my body. I'm sure, when you lean in and you're having a conversation at a cafe, there's something that happens. You just can't replicate that with AI
No.
or online
No.
friends. And healing from trauma is relational, and this transformative work is relational. We need those helpers, those mentors, those other people. The mentors get as much out of it too, I'm sure, as you guys are
Yes.
learning from the experience that of people you're working with. But the other thing, and Penny, you hinted to this before, one of the aspects of healing is to have a safe witness, to have a safe, objective other hold that space for you. And whether that is, hey, I need to process something that was difficult, and in the past, people weren't really there for me. They weren't capable to show up for me the way I needed to. And so some of my hurt is around having to carry this alone. And some of it is being a cheerleader. There's so many components to the other being connected to this process. I think we're hungering for it, and I think the more digital technology takes over the day-to-day to our life, that this is going to become a special commodity, being able to have people sit with us in this way. I used to go to some yoga workshops and go to a practice every day, and then COVID hit. And so it was YouTube in the basement.
Right.
And
right.
okay, I'm doing yoga in the basement with YouTube. Totally different experience than being in a studio. Just the energy is totally different. And even meditating, I would just, I've got the little app. I'll put the Insight timer on, and I'll sit there by myself. I now have started once or twice a week to join a group of folks on Zoom, and you just can't replicate it. There's something there. People remember you. They smile. It's nice to see you. Every time someone speaks, everyone just kind of acknowledges it. This is really important stuff. I think people really need to consider taking advantage of more of these things and not losing touch to what it feels like to be connected to someone else.
Yeah, and we really want to make this accessible to everybody. I think our cost point is very low. And then Rhea and I also do community outreach because, especially as women, I think this is so critical. So if we can work with nonprofits and offer free workshops once a month, just to give back to the community in a way that people have given to us, people have mentored us along the way. And this is us reaching back and taking the hand of the person behind us and bringing them up with us. Because like I said, especially as women, where we're expected to do all the things in life, why not give each other the tools to be successful in what we really feel in our heart is what our purpose in life.
You illustrated what we were talking about so beautifully. We are trying to create space because I'll give you an example. That workshop I did last year, I had been trying to do things like that on my own. I'd been doing the work. I'd been in therapy. I had used, books and things like that. There was nothing that could replace being with other people in the same spot and having that, having people bounce ideas off of you. It's not just us. It's also a cohort of, usually 10 to 12 people who also will be your cheerleader. That's what was so pivotal for me. Doing it on my own was great. Like therapy, we love therapy. Therapy's great. But that's what was so pivotal, was having that group to go through. That was the game changer.
I mean, back to our loneliness epidemic here, there becomes a point, because we're so locked into our screens and we're spending more and more time inside than ever before. There's some really shocking statistics about kids are spending more time indoors than is legally allowed for prisoners. Like we're not out mixing with folks. We're not out and about. We're not like maybe having spontaneous conversations at the farmer's market, or like going for a walk or a hike or anything. And maybe some of us don't know how to actually bridge and meet people. And so you think about, well, here's a space where, you got some people who are thinking about these important things. They care about these things. They care about themselves. They have that discipline. It's kind of like meeting someone at the gym, maybe, right? They have like,
Right,
they have sort of healthy attitudes. People attending this are people who have a mindset that is probably going to be someone that would be a great friend, just as the two of you formed this friendship.
Exactly.
And so I just love this so much. You recently posted some rewrite and reflect prompts on your blog. And you were suggesting that folks spend some time like on a Sunday to reflect and maybe set some intentions for the week ahead. And it's so lovely. And I find a lot of power in ritual. And of course, consistency is crucial for any transformation. And so I'd love it if you wouldn't mind maybe walking us through some of these powerful but simple prompts that people listening might be able to take away and maybe even use this weekend.
Mary, I love Sundays because for most of us, it's the start of a new week. And it's a little bit like a mini New Year's that you get 52 times in the year. It's always a time for me where I set my intention for the week. So not necessarily a goal that I have to hit or something like that, but just tapping into myself and saying, what do I want the purpose of this week to be? And like I spoke about earlier, you don't have to make a huge change all in one fell swoop. Taking a small manageable bite in 1 week, it's not a big ask, not a lot of time, but being able to make that tiny shift one time a week in the aggregate as it builds up over a year or over several years, that's where you start to see the big shift. We've been calling them Penny's prompts. But Penny's prompts are just to get you to think about some aspect of your life that you might need to tap into that week. And it could be something that, it's been on your mind, or it could be something that, gosh, I never really thought about that. Maybe I should consider that for this week. So we hope in doing that it will just give you a little quiet. And, you don't need much time, 5 minutes, sit down and jot it. You could do bullet points if you want, but just some time to get the wheels turning in your mind so that when Monday morning hits and you're hitting the ground running, that seed has already been planted in your mind and you're ready to go.
I love it. By the way, I have my non-interview shows. I do protagonist ponderings. I'm right there with you. Yeah. And maybe it's me. Maybe some people think that they don't have permission to ponder and reflect. And maybe in our society now, we just operate in a different way where just doing that seems really odd. And it's so powerful and it taps into so many things. So thank you so much. So I have a little segment called the Protagonist Questionnaire, where it's inspired by the French journalist Bernard Pivot and borrowed heavily, if not stolen, from the late, great James Lipton from the Actors Studio. First question, what person or people first showed you your own power?
This is a hard one for me, Mary. This one was hard because the person who showed me my own power was an antagonist.
That's even better.
So yeah. So I think I was in 4th grade as part of the honors, academically talented program. And I had a teacher who, wasn't great. She wasn't great.
You're being kind, I can tell. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I looked very different from anyone else in that program. And I don't know that was always welcome. So I got a lot of support and didn't always get that support. So, I'll just call her Miss D. We had to do a presentation on like this island that we created, right, in the program. And I left my stuff at home. I did the day we had to do the presentation for the other kids. So like outside of the program, we had to do it for our classes, like the 30, 40 kids. And I left myself at home and, she got me, man. She got me.
Wow.
Like, you're going anyway. And I was like, dang it. And I had none of my stuff prepared. My teacher, Miss Sitek, she was my 4th grade teacher. She was amazing. Like my homeroom teacher, she was amazing. She rooted for me. She was my first like cheerleader. And she said, like, basically, you got this. You're going to go up there and you're going to kill it without your notes, without anything. And so we did a vote at the end of the presentation. And they asked the kids, they all voted for my presentation. They asked the kids, what was it that you liked about Rhea so much? They said that she didn't use any notes or notes cards.
Wow.
And that's how I knew, like, I'm going to speak for a living. That's how I knew I was going to go into law. Like, that's how I knew I was going to be really comfortable going in front of a camera, journalism, like all of it. She did that for me. Like, she blessed me with that. So I'm not even mad about it anymore, but it was a blessing. So she was the first person to show me the power of my voice.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Penny?
I will say it was my best friend Sarah in high school. My father had had a violent outburst, and she happened to be at my house when it happened. And she was the one who ran after him and chased him down, and he ran off scared. And that was the first time I'd seen any woman stand up to my father. So
Wow.
she was my inspiration.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is it's so fascinating. I feel like we need to do a show just on this prompt or just on this question. And it also makes you think about your power and influence, especially with young kids, right? Like I had a friend of mine on who was a teacher, and she said she, is somewhat sarcastic sometimes, and she had to learn that sarcasm doesn't always land with other people. She had said something, a little kid was, asked her something, and she was very sarcastic, and the little girl started to cry. And it's so interesting when you put that hat on and you remember how big the world seemed and how overwhelming. Yeah. And then when someone's, as you're a child, you start to realize, wait a minute, I'm growing into this own powerful being. Wow, that's awesome. All right, hopefully this will be an easier question. What film do you find most inspiring?
Hunger Games. I love it. It's one of those, it drives my kids crazy. That's a classic hero's journey. So love Hunger Games, love the study of kind of human psychology under duress.
How about you, Penny?
Dead Poets Society.
That would have been mine
for
too.
20 years.
She has a good one.
Robin Williams is in my heart, but he's, it's also about teaching, and at my heart and my core, I'm a teacher.
All right, next up, what is your favorite character from literature or film? Do we know this one, Rhea? Can I deduce?
Katniss. It's Katniss. We talk about this with writing, right? The Mary Sues. Like, don't write these perfect characters who don't really have all these levels to them. To me, Katniss, like when you think of a teenage girl, they tend to be stereotyped as like bubbly, and she's just like, I'm here to protect my sister, my mom. I'm doing what I need to do. I'm taking on multiple levels of government, like multiple levels. And like she's just one girl just showing up, doing her thing. She's not here. I think that's the thing that gets to me. So, okay, I want to go deep for a second.
Do it. Let's do it.
I think for me, I've always known I had to perform. Like I had to be at a certain level of standard for everything. If I danced, I was going to be a college cheerleader. If I played sports, I was going to play sports in college. Like everything had to be at a certain level. There was constant pressure. And I liked that Katniss didn't care. She didn't care about performing for the cameras. She didn't care about all the stuff that everyone wanted her to care about. Like, this is me. I'll do it, but just want you to know this is me. And I'm not here to perform for you. There's something about that power that I think I was attracted to in that character.
She knew she was good enough, as she was.
Yeah. She's and she didn't really care if you didn't, she didn't care.
Yeah.
She just didn't care. I loved it.
Okay, Penny.
Matilda from Roald Dahl.
Oh.
Because she's so smart and so witty, and she just, she has all these terrible people in her life, and she finds a way to get through all of the crap in her life.
That's awesome. I'm trying to think. It's interesting how there's a theme of characters, right? Like there's
strong female protagonists. That's
heroes and the odds. Mm-hmm. And the odds of one to many and power to weakness, or maybe it's classic David and Goliath with even more complications, which is that even if everything is so much bigger than you don't care. You don't care, or you have the strength to stand up and there's something that keeps speaking to all of us about that. All right, moving on to music. What song do you play to psych yourself up, Rhea?
There's a Christian rapper named Lecrae, and there's a song called Nothing I Can't Do. I was a labor negotiator, so I'm arguing with these big guys, and that positive power that's been helpful for me.
Penny, how about you?
And for me, it's Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz.
Oh yeah, Rhea, your favorite comfort food?
Mac and cheese, but it's gotta be baked. It's gotta be baked.
Everyone's very particular about mac and cheese.
Oh yeah, I'm half Caribbean, half Southern. So
is it going to have some spice in there then? Is it going to have a little bit?
Peppers, onions, a little bit of spice in there. But it's got to be baked. And I don't just let anyone just give me mac and cheese. This is a serious business.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring mac and cheese to your house. I'd be too scared, I think.
Fair. It's fair. It's fair.
How about you, Penny? Favorite comfort food?
I mean, if you could put dessert as an entire food group, anything sweet, but really dark chocolate. Just give me all the chocolate.
All right. Rhea, what do you do to unwind, self-soothe, or remind yourself not to take life too seriously?
Right. Yeah. For me, it's dance.
Oh.
I didn't dance when I was growing up. We just didn't have, I don't know if it's time, money, whatever, for lessons. And in college, I promised myself I was going to be on the college dance team. I had no experience. I had all these girls who have been dancing since they were 3 trying out for the team. I said, I'm doing it. I stayed up like all night learning the routine. I did. I made the team. Like I made the A performing team. I was on it for 2 years. I was denied this growing up. I'm going to go for it. I'm just going to go for it. I don't care that I'm 20 something learning this. Like, I'm just going to go for it. Was I the slowest person to learn a routine for the next 2 years? I sure was. But I love it. It's just a way of getting that energy out of your body. I can't explain it, but it just moves. Negative energy just comes out of my body. I feel like by the time I'm done with it. And then you have a whole group of people doing the same thing with you. It's awesome.
Well, and you've moved from making it a performative thing and a leveling thing to
Exactly.
now it's been repurposed to just it just helps you bring joy out of your body.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Joy and freedom. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, Penny?
Well, I was going to say hugging my husband and my kids, but I have 2 teenagers now who don't want to be hugged anymore.
Do you need to go to the shelter, get a kitten this weekend, maybe?
Probably. So now it's trail running. I just get me on a good trail and get the adrenaline going, and that's what does it for me.
Wow, I'm so impressed and a little intimidated, both of you guys, because I was expecting Netflix with some Ben and Jerry's, and you're trail riding and dancing and all this other kind of stuff. But okay,
I mean, yeah, in the evening and late at night, it's something a little bit different.
All right, what sounds fill your heart with joy, Rhea? Sounds fill your heart with joy.
It really is. I will say this is where the husband and kids come in. When we're out somewhere and we're doing an activity, and I'm surrounded by boys. I have 2 boys. My husband, he is the oldest one I have.
The oldest boy.
When they're just silly and goofy, and we're out as a family, and there's lots of love and laughter. I don't think there's a better sound.
Oh.
And this is another thing that Rhea and I have in common, because I also have 2 boys and a husband who's a kid at heart, and listening to them laugh, like a good hearty belly laugh, there's nothing that compares to seeing their joy. Watching a stupid movie or, some raunchy comedy.
How wonderful, too. I felt like during COVID, when we were all isolated, you could feel some of that stuff dry up. And now it's so lovely to hear people who are out and about and like being spontaneous and off the phone and interacting with each other. Also sounds like you guys have some beautiful families, which is not at all surprising based on knowing both of you. So that's really beautiful.
I think that was important for us, Mary, with because I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional household as well. And my one son, my youngest, he'll do this little song. He'll say happy, happy. And I'll ask him more about what that is. And he's just like, I'm just so happy. It's happy, happy. And like, I would have never sang that song at his age.
Wow. No, I mean, and not only that, but by the way, to be in touch with his inner felt sense and to be able and comfortable and confident to express it. Like, because that's one of the things I learned on my journey, which is like, I didn't have a connection between, this is how I'm feeling. I'm aware of I'm feeling frustrated or sad or happy. Like, I didn't even have that connection. And then I am so in touch with it and I can answer and tell you what it is. That's not something that everyone learns how to do in all families growing up. So how cool that he has that self-awareness. It's like very mature.
I think Penny and I just want to raise boys who are change makers and break some generational curses that we inherited.
Can we also table, I'd love to have you guys back on and even do something on boys and maybe, because I mean, obviously I supporting strong women and all of that, but we have a boy problem, a boy crisis in the country. And it sounds like your sons are remarkable and you're doing something right. And I think this is another opportunity for all of us to figure out how we can be good friends, good neighbors, aunts, uncles, however we can show up people who need it. And Max Brooks said that, there's no leaving people behind. It sounds like you guys are wonderful, wonderful moms to wonderful boys. Next, what is your spirit animal, Rhea?
Mine is a dragonfly. Look, literally, I've seen a dragonfly pops up at the mall. It's rare, right? So like,
I've
if
had
a
that
butterfly
too.
pops up. Oh, yours is a dragonfly too?
No, but I mean, I don't know. I haven't figured out this one, but I have had a dragonfly pop up at really intense periods of
There's
inflection.
something about it, because if it's a butterfly, you see them enough that you kind of take it for granted. But something about a dragonfly, because it's the same thing, right? It's transformation, just like a butterfly, but it's more rare. So if it shows up, like one showed up in my house at an incredibly pivotal time. It was the middle of COVID, incredibly pivotal, when I was trying to make a decision.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, in the middle of the night, I was like, oh, okay, all right. And
Sometimes the
it's,
universe sends
yeah,
signs like pay attention, right?
yeah,
Like look
yeah, for
here.
me, it's dragonfly. Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, Penny.
Mine is an eagle because I like to be able to observe things and kind of have a bird's eye view of what's going on around me.
I moved out to Eastern Long Island in COVID, and actually we have eagles and hawks here. And the first time I saw one, I just felt like am I in the Lord of the Rings? Like what? Like, growing either being in the city or in suburbia, New Jersey, you didn't see many eagles. Certainly, growing.
That's
Like, is
true.
this real? And then you see their wingspan, and like I almost drove off the road. It's just shocking. Beautiful animal. So, okay, next up, Ria, what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote would be, I believe it's attributed to Winston Churchill, but it's, when you're going through hell, keep going.
It is. Good one.
For me, it's a quote by Audre Lorde. You cannot use someone else's fire. You can only use your own. And in order to do that, you must first be willing to believe that you have it.
Oh, so powerful. So powerful. All right. Finally, last one. Ria, how do you wish to be remembered?
I think the one word I would use is light. I was talking to Penny about this yesterday. So we always say hurt people, right? But we never say healed people, heal people. Like, there is an opposing force to that. And the more that we can, I know it sounds so like, I'll be the light, but I'm going to tell you, I've had days that were so hard, and someone's random kindness that I will never meet again in this life has blessed me so much. And so it is important. And when we don't believe that being the light is important, that's when we get all this darkness, when we don't understand our power, no matter where we are on the social stratosphere. So for me, it's wanting to be remembered as light. And
that's beautiful.
And for me, my brother and I made a pact when we were younger that we would be the ones to break the generational cycle of abuse in our family. And now that I have two boys, I am very conscious of raising them to be men who treat not only women, but everybody with kindness and respect. So again, it's that ripple effect that we talked about earlier, that we just hope to send the next generation off on a better foot than we had.
And so your ancestors are observing you and going, she did it.
I hope so. I hope so.
Wow, what meaningful and special answers, and to really very special people. And as one of the things I'm just taking away is the way you live your lives is so self and other aware. Like you're walking around, you're noticing clues. Like Ria, there's all these signs the universe is giving you. Penny, you're thinking about the history and then also the path forward, and you're connecting the dots and understanding your specific role in that narrative and all these other characters that depend on you. I mean, this is a very different way of occupying space in the world. It's a much more sacred way. And you're now taking all of these gifts and experiences and expertise, and you're putting something together for yourself and for other people. And I mean, I'm grateful for your authenticity and the risks you're taking, and that you're showing up in the world as helpers. I've said on a prior show that Mr. Rogers, when he was bullied really badly when he was a little boy, I think his mother had said, he attributes this quote to his mother, who said, whenever something bad's happening and you're scared, look for the helpers. There's always helpers. And I think that's what we're all trying to do, having been scared children before, is that now it's our time to walk in and be helpers, to ourselves and to everyone else. And God knows we sure need more of us walking around like this.
Yes.
So I know many people are going to take advantage and transform their lives through the Rewrite workshops. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and yourselves with all of us.
Thank you, Mary, for this opportunity. And you're doing this, you're doing the same work we are. So it's just as powerful as you're doing. And I think the more of us that come together and kind of coalesce in this community of doing this, the more it's going to ripple out to people. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey there. Welcome to Shobukai Shift, where we talk about transformations that matter. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation I had with Penelope Cottrell and Rhea DeMay. They're the founders of the Rewrite Workshops. You know how I always say on the show that you're both the author and the main character of the story you're writing for yourself? Well, the Rewrite Workshops helps people change the story. Are you wishing your life was different right now? Do you keep going back and telling yourself, and probably other people too, your old story? You know the one I'm talking about. Well, they've started something that can help you figure out how to rewrite that story, how to change the narrative so that you can begin to see yourself in a very different light. By shifting your perceptions of yourself, you can literally change your life. Before we start, please remember that this and all podcasts are not a substitute for professional advice about your personal situation, and that the opinions expressed here are those of me and my guests only. Okay, let's get started.